Good morning, good evening, one and all. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to World Human Sciences and Management Conference 2021 and 22. Good morning to our abroad audiences watching us live in Facebook and YouTube. We are very much proud to announce that this conference is conducted along with Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, Central University of Odisha, Koraput. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to World Human Sciences and Management Conference 2021-22. This is Rudranarayan Das, Executive Director, Center for ADIVASI Research and Development. We are proud to announce that this conference is conducted with Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, Central University of Odisha, Koraput, and Ravenshaw University, Cuttack. I welcome our speaker for today, Professor Amarendra Das, and participants across the globe through Facebook and YouTube Live. The broader theme of this conference is AGNOTOLOGICAL context, disciplinary practices of social sciences and policy frames. On behalf of Center for ADIVASI Research and Development, I extend my profound gratitude to our patrons, Professor Sanjay Kumar Naik, respected Vice Chancellor, Ravenshaw University, Professor Mahadev Jaiswal, Director, Indian Institute of Management, and Professor Sarath Kumar Palita, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Odisha. The convener of this largest virtual conference, eminent Indian historian, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda, and eminent policy activist, writer, and philanthropist, Mr. Charudat Panigrahi. Dear friends, the main outcome of this conference is to come up with the national and international framework for the education system in future. The crux of this conference will be the use of digital technologies such as artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality that is being increasingly adopted after the outbreak of COVID pandemic. We hope this the Center for ADIVASI Research and Development is a leading research-oriented institution promoting ethnographic, empirical, and evidence-based research for engaging and addressing the challenges that 21st century globe is facing today. The prime agenda of this institution to come up with potential policy solutions for social change while believing in the idea of debate, dialogue, and discussion, and expertise, experiencing, and education. The institution focus on marginalized communities and work for their livelihood and protect their nature, culture, language, and identity in particular. The age of modernity has witnessed that change is the only constant phenomenon for social purpose to enhance knowledge. Our information work for them is methodical and avoid paradoxical framework which is neglected so many centuries to become theory to become practice. Our center sincerely believes in the concept of social marketing, which is seriously looking for non-profit marketing and builds new social entrepreneurship for check and balance mechanism to glorify the generations to come. Center for ADIVASI Research and Development come to serve with the holistic approach of critical thinking in education system to fill the gaps and plan accordingly for the voiceless community. And dear friends, today we have with us one of the very dynamic personality, Professor Amarendra Das. Professor Amarendra Das is a reader, School of Humanities and Social Sciences in NISER, Bhubaneswar. He earlier worked at Utkal University and 14th Finance Commission of India, also serving as a Secretary of Odisha Economic Association. Professor Das is doing his PhD at the Center for Development Studies in Thiruvananthapuram and Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He's also doing his master in philosophy in Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Professor Das teaching introduction of economics, environmental economics, and environmental impact assessment, and new institutional economics, and also public economics, environmental economics, and international trade and finance, macroeconomics, economics of growth and development. Professor Das is in 2011 received the best paper prize for the paper titled Odisha's Fiscal Consolidation Path, Trimming the Fat or Cutting the Muscle, at the 7th refresher course in public economics for South Asian region, organized by National Institute of Public Finance and Policy in New Delhi. In 2010, Professor Das is selected as a young scientist award for the best paper presentation on an economic analysis of the water allocation in Odisha and in Odisha Environment Congress, and 2010 jointly organized by the Center for Environment and Development and Thiruvananthapuram Human Development Foundation, Bhubaneswar, and Regional Museum of Natural History, Bhubaneswar. In 2009, Professor Das is won with first prize in the 10th Annual Global Development Conference, Natural Resources and Development, in its competition for medal for research on development under the category of foreign direct investment and natural resources sector. So in today, Professor Amarendra Das will be talk about political question, development, and vision 2036. So without taking much time, I'd like to invite Dr. Amarendra Das to deliver his talk.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Center for ADIVASI Research and Development, especially Dr. Rudhinaran Das and Mr. Jaina. Yeah, today's question is political question and development and vision 2036. So I should first clarify that I am not a very political person, and I don't have much competence in the politics. So I will start with the economics questions, and then we'll try to answer these questions through some political perspective, whether the economic outcomes can be explained through the political institutions or the political settings in the state. So coming to the questions, like if we start with okay, first of all, Odisha is going to complete 100 years of its formation in the year 2036, and so a lot of people are also now interested and who are preparing a vision document. And in fact, since I am the secretary of Odisha Economics Association, we are preparing a Odisha Vision 2036 document, and we have involved about 40 authors having competency in different fields, and we are also taking opinions from different people how to make this document an inclusive one. So we'll keep that context in our mind, that how can we transform Odisha into a at least medium income category state, where the basic minimum facilities or basic minimum public goods are provided to all, because within say 14 years time we cannot definitely become the first state of India or the most developed state of India, so that would be not practical. So we can at least give an ambition to become a middle income state of India, and So we should first discuss what what is the present situation of Odisha. Okay, I think let me share a PPT. If that I think that will be better for you to see some graphs. Yeah. So this is my PPT. Yeah. Okay. So political questions, development and vision 2036. So this is the situation of Odisha at present. If you see the per capita income of Odisha at present, of course, we don't have the estimates for the year 2022, but the data of 2020 actually says that the per capita income of Odisha was 1,04,000, yeah, approximately 1,04,000 rupees. But an average Indian had the per capita income of 1,34,000 rupees. And if we see that who is the richest state in our country, then it is Goa, which is a very small state, and it has close to 3 lakh rupees income, not actually, or even more than that. And so we are not going to discuss the richest state, but at least if you compare the situation of Odisha with the average Indian, then we are lagging behind. And I wanted to see how has Odisha performed in last 75 years, starting from say 1950 to present. And you see that somewhere in mid 60s, Odisha's per capita income was almost comparable to that of the national average. And that was, of course, for a very small time. We see that the per capita income of Odisha was comparable to that of the national average. But then from late 60s onwards, we see that the situation of Odisha has declined steadily. And in recent years, basically starting from 2003-4, the situation of Odisha has improved a little bit, and but then it has not helped the state to catch up with say the national status, the national average. And if you see the blue line, you see that it is Odisha's per capita income is less than 80% of an average Indian. So 20% shortfall is still there, and to be comparable with that of the national average. Now, many people are interested actually to know also that okay, in last 22 years, one political party has been ruling, and one chief minister is in the power. And what has happened to Odisha? Whether, and in fact, the chief minister has been getting no different recognition at national level, that most popular chief minister of the country. So then we should see also that what has happened Odisha's position. So you see the per capita income of Odisha and compare this with the other states, then in the year 2000, because that is the starting point where the new chief minister came to power, and Mr. Navin Patnaik came to power, and BJD comes to power, and then we had 24th rank out of 28 states. We were at 24th level in per capita income terms. And then gradually you see that by 2011-12, we moved to 21st position, and then in the year 2018-19, for which we have the data, latest data, because we don't have the per capita income of 2021-22. So I'm using the per capita income of 2018-19, and by that time, Odisha has moved up to 18th position. So this looks quite a significant achievement, I would say, that in last 20 years time, Odisha has progressed quite a lot, at least in per capita income terms. So overall, state's income has gone up, okay, but and this is quite significant. 6th position improvement from 24th to 18th is a significant jump. Okay? And so definitely the ruling party would take credit for this, and data speaks on this. So we have nothing to hide. We all have to accept this. So this is a significant change. But you know that the per capita income has what we call that statistics. It conceals more than it reveals. So the per capita income of a state does not reveal the distribution of the income. Okay? And I will give an example that I use very often. In Odisha, now you would see that in last 20 years, a lot of improvement has happened in the manufacturing sector, and particularly in the mining industry. So the growth is largely driven by the industry, and that is mining industry and the metal-based industries. And in fact, in the coming years, our industry is also going to witness faster growth. Okay? And that is already those signs are already there, because a lot of industries are coming to the state, and you see that the oil refinery in Paradeep, and that can have actually a lot of forward and backward linkages. Similarly, the mining industry or the metal-based industry can have a lot of forward and backward linkages, and that is already happening in the state. And Kalinganagar industrial plant, which started with a lot of controversy, is now becoming the industrial hub in Odisha, and then Bhadrak, and then Dhamra port. All those things are going to come up in the coming days. So industrial development is definitely going to happen in the state. But then what happens in these industries, you see that the employment elasticity is quite low. They produce a lot of output, but they don't employ much people. Very few people are employed, because minings are now completely mechanized, and even the metal-based industries are also highly mechanized. So very few people get employment. So what happens, you produce the output in the state, but then that output doesn't reach anyone. A few people who own the company, they take away the profits to even sometimes other states. So you would see that, in fact, when I go to district level, that will be quite evident. And since we are discussing this distribution of income, I can give the example of Keonjhar district. If you see Keonjhar district, then in per capita income terms of that district, if you compare the 30 districts of Odisha, then in per capita income terms, Keonjhar district would come among top 10 districts of the state. But if you look at the poverty incidence and the monthly per capita consumption expenditure of Keonjhar district, it comes at the bottom 10 districts of the state. Now, what does it imply? That means because of the excess mineral production, we see that the district domestic product of Keonjhar district comes among the top 10 districts. But since the income is not distributed in that district, the consumption expenditure of the people does not increase. And that is why it comes among the bottom 10 districts of the state in terms of monthly per capita consumption expenditure. And if a consumption expenditure is low, it will lead to a high incidence of poverty. So the per capita income story is not that rosy. Okay? Of course, at national level, we may argue that our situation has improved in aggregate terms, okay? And that's how we are going to see the consumption expenditure data, which reflects the distribution of the income. Now, this is the data of consumption expenditure, monthly per capita consumption expenditure of Odisha and India. And last two columns show Odisha's share in the national level. So that means take the monthly per capita consumption expenditure of Odisha and divide it by that of the national average for rural and urban India, and you would see that the monthly per capita consumption expenditure of rural Odisha is 70% of the monthly per capita consumption expenditure of an average rural Indian. And if you are thinking about the urban people, then also it is only 75% of the urban average Indians. Okay, and if you see the intertemporal comparison, then we see that it has not really gone up. Okay? In 60s and 70s, you see that things were a little better, but then gradually things are deteriorating. In fact, during the same time when we say that Mr. Patnaik, Navin Patnaik, or the BJD would take credit for raising the per capita income, you see that the monthly per capita consumption expenditure as a share of the national average has gone down. Say from 1990 to 2000, it was 70%, or in 2001 and 2, it was almost 79% of the national average. Now that has gone down to 70%. Okay, so it implies that growth has happened in the state, output has grown, but this output has not reached the people, large section of the society. Okay, and that has that is reflected in the fall in the monthly per capita consumption expenditure of the people, and relatively also when we compare with the national average, both in urban and in rural Odisha, people have not got much benefit from this growth process. So this is an exclusive growth. This is not an inclusive growth. So that is a matter of serious concern. And again, to show some relative ranking of the state, we see that in the recent multidimensional poverty index of Niti Aayog, Odisha's rank is at 9th place. But in the past, whenever the Tendulkar committee had come up with the report, in 2011, we were at the 6th place, and in 2014, we were at 3rd place. So things have improved. From like being considered as the poorest state, now we have gone up to the 9th rank. So this is somewhat okay, we can say, but not 100% satisfactory, because I have already shown you that how Odisha's situation has deteriorated in terms of the monthly per capita consumption expenditure. This is the distribution of poverty. Okay, that when we say that certain percentage of people are poor in the state, then we also need to see that who are these poor people. Okay? And if you see the distribution among the social categories, then see, okay, in 2011-12, because that is the latest year for which we have the poverty estimates, and based on that, we say that 36% of the people of Odisha are living below the poverty line. But if you see the social groups, then 64% of the Adivasis are living below the poverty line. And to give a number, we have 4.5 crore population, and 23% people are tribal. That means almost 1 crore people are tribal. And out of 1 crore tribal population, 64% people are poor. That means 63 lakh people out of 1 crore Adivasis are living below the poverty line. Similarly, scheduled caste, 42% or 41.39% of scheduled caste are living below the poverty line. OBCs, 24.16%. And the general category is the most privileged one, and among them only 13.2% people live below the poverty line. So that means poverty has a caste identity, and because if you are privileged and you are born in the general category households, you are less likely to be poor. But if you are unfortunate and you are born in a tribal family, then 64% chance is that you will be poor. That means, to put it again in simple terms, out of 10 tribal households, almost 7 people will be poor, and out of 10 scheduled caste households, 4 people would be poor. And but if it is in general category, then it would be less than 2, okay, out of 10. So so poverty has a caste in Odisha also. And then coming to the region, okay, whether poverty is concentrated in a few pockets, then also we see that yes, poverty is concentrated in a few pockets, and we see that coastal is the more advanced, poverty is less. But southern India, southern Odisha has maximum incidence of poverty, and the most infamous KV regions has the maximum poverty. In fact, this has been sorry. The recent Niti Aayog report also has revealed the same thing, that poverty is concentrated in the southern districts of Odisha. So this is the multidimensional poverty index. I'm not getting into the details. So coming to Odisha's situation, you see that there are different colors, and Odisha comes among the okay, at 9th place, and not very poor, but not also coming in the middle income group states. And coming to the district wise distribution of the poverty, you see that Nabarangpur, Malkangiri, Koraput, Raigada, Kalahandi, Mayurbhanj, Kandhamal, Koraput, and so you see that the example that I was giving, that Keonjhar district also is marked orange color. That means it comes among the bottom are among the poorest districts of the state. We produce a lot of minerals, and in fact top grade minerals are produced, and Jajpur, which is the neighboring district, has the industrial hub. But then this high value extraction of mineral has not really benefited the people of Keonjhar district. And but you can see that what has happened to the Sundargarh district. Sundargarh is a little better, okay? And Sundargarh is also a tribal dominated district, but then it is much better than Keonjhar, and that could be probably explained by high industrialization. A lot of industries are there, and development of education in that particular district. So at least because of industrialization, some income distribution has happened in Sundargarh district, even though it has a lot of tribal population. It comes under a scheduled district of the state where a lot of tribal people live, but still it is better. So if we have to learn something, at least for the development of tribal, I think probably we can learn something from Sundargarh district, and unlearn from Keonjhar district, because we do a lot of production, but it doesn't benefit anyone. So yeah, this is the poverty map of the state. So you see that maximum poverty is concentrated in the southern part of the state. So the debate of that east and west doesn't probably exist, because we see that poverty is not there in the west, but it is concentrated in the south and some part of the north. So these are mostly the tribal dominated districts. So that means tribal people have not benefited at all from the growth process. That is a matter of serious concern. We will have the discussion on the implication, the political implications for this. Yeah. So now that we have discussed the economics part of this, that how the growth has changed over last 70 years, and especially in last 20 years, and who has benefited from this growth process, and what are the implications where poverty has been concentrated. Now, coming to the political questions, we see that ideally in a democratic country, people should protest, okay, because the citizen has the right to protest, then the citizen should protest, and because every citizen has the equal right, okay, and the modern democratic nations are called as the welfare nations. So ensuring welfare of every citizen is the duty of the state and the nation. So based on that, based on the regional disparity we have seen in the state, there have been regional movements, and that's how we can say that the Western Odisha people have demanded from time to time, for sometimes even to the extreme of demanding a separate state, or similarly having Western Odisha Development Council, and so you can say that there has been some mobilization based on the region, and to some extent sometimes for in southern part also there has been some demand, but then that the political mobilization in the south has remained quite weak, I would say. Like the Western Odisha, I think the Southern Odisha mobilization has not really been so strong. And then coming to the social mobilization, I think that has remained quite weak. Why social mobilization is so important here? Because we saw that the poverty has remained concentrated among some sections of the society, and whereas the social mobilization has not happened, and that means there is an elite capture of the politics in the state, and also the bureaucracy, and also we can say the public administration. So that means if there is a political elite capture of the politics and the institutions, democratic institutions, then the distribution process would not be even, okay? And that's how you see that the social movements, say whether it is, in fact, if you compare the southern states, say for example, if you think about the Dravidian movements, or even in Kerala, if you see analyze the social movements, all social movements have been led by the OBCs. Okay? But in Odisha, the OBC mobilization is probably absent, completely absent, and the mobilization of the tribal is also very weak. Okay, from sometime we see that uh, some people, some tribal people have mobilized themselves for specific objectives. Okay, so even some people may say that the Naxal movement in the state, whether it will be treated as a movement, but so that would be quite regional, and some industrial movements, say for example, from time to time in specific regions, we have had certain movements like Kasipur movement, we had Niyamagiri movements, we had recent industrialization movement in Jagatsinghpur, but those are not actually pan Odisha, and not on specific social issues. Those are not on covering the entire state and mobilizing all sections of the society. That has never happened. So the social mobilization in the state remains weak, and so we see that the institutions would not then function as purely democratically. Okay, so there are government institutions, but the service delivery would become weak, and it would not serve all sections of the society, and those are reflected in the southern part of the state, where we see the Naxal movements are there. And why that has happened? Because there are no roads and there is no drinking water facility. There is no internet connection. So why this has happened? The same democratic party is elected by the state, and the same institutions are there. We have a BDO everywhere, we have a sarpanch, but how come these institutions are not delivering the services in certain pockets? So that means these institutions are not democratic. Okay? Although officially it looks democratic institutions, but when it comes to the service delivery, it is not really really acting democratically. And then, is the politics fully democratized in the state? The question is quite complicated, okay? Because the democratization of the politics is also important. Competitive politics is necessary for the development of a state. So if you see Kerala, okay, then Tamil Nadu, the southern states particularly, then their political institutions are also quite democratized, and that is why sometimes it is said that political stability and too much of political stability is not a good indicator for the development of a state. And again, that the best example is Kerala. In Kerala, every 5 years, people change the political party, so that each political party that rules for 5 years is on the toe. It has to work to satisfy the people, and even that also doesn't ensure them coming back to the power in next 5 years. So, although some people may argue that no political stability would attract industries and so on, but that may not. So, okay, that may attract industry, but that may not benefit to all sections of the society, because if there is no democratic political institution, then the distribution doesn't happen. It gets concentrated. So, in fact, uh, uh, continuity of power with by one political party, or say one person also ruling for quite long time, would not be a good indicator for that region. Okay? In fact, uh, if you see also the political institution in the state, if you say the functioning of the state legislative assembly in the state, then it also doesn't reflect the democratization of the politics in the state, because you see the functioning of the state legislative assembly, number of days it functions, and the issues that are discussed in the state legislative assembly, no, that is not quite encouraging, okay? Because the state legislative assembly is closed much, or adjourned much before the scheduled date, and very few issues are discussed in the state legislative assembly. So that means it doesn't reflect the democratization of the politics, even within the political party, be it ruling party or opposition parties. We do not see a democratic space within the political party, where issues are debated and discussed, or say diversity of the opinions are respected. That we don't see actually. So that means the political space in the state is not democratic. Okay? So that means if it is not democratic, then forget about the distribution of the benefits. If politics is not democratic, then how will the economic benefits be distributed? So these are some of the questions that we need to think. Then coming to the vision 2036, we see that okay, we now are eyeing that at least we should have some ambition that by 2036 we should transform our situation. Okay? We should not continue the way we are now continuing, and we should at least aim to have zero poverty, okay? Because poverty is crime, because people who live below poverty line, they only know that they don't have the dignity in the society. So in a welfare nation, in a democratic nation, if people are not getting sufficient food to eat, decent cloth to wear, decent housing for living, and even nutritious food, and some healthcare services and good education, if they're not getting these basic things, that means no, what is that means they are not living in a democratic country, or they are not living in a welfare nation or in a welfare state. So basic minimum things should be assured to everyone, and our first target should be to completely remove poverty from the state. And in Odisha, to achieve zero poverty, our priority should be to basically focus now should be on the tribal people, okay, because maximum people, a large section of the tribal population is living below the poverty line. So we should analyze very closely that why our development model is not helping the tribal people. What has gone wrong? We need to analyze that. And of course, the challenges are quite complicated. It's not easy also, because I think Odisha has the maximum varieties of the tribals. 62 tribes are living in the state, and that also poses a different challenge for the policymakers, because if you have homogeneity of the population, then you will have also easy implementation of the development policies. But when you have so many varieties of so much of diversity of the population, then your implementation, policy implementation becomes quite a challenge. So, but we cannot take that excuse for so long. It is already 75 years, and if still 36% of the people live below poverty line, and from a specific section, from a specific population category, if 64% people would be living below the poverty line, then this cannot be accepted. And because on the one hand, we are saying that, you see, we are achieving fast economic growth, then for whom we have achieved this economic growth? And then we have to provide public goods to all. Okay? And what are the public goods? Like good roads to all, providing electricity, mobile network, banking services. These are the public goods. Okay? Everyone should have easy access to all these things. But unfortunately, we do not have. In fact, there are no blocks in the state where there are no colleges. Okay? So I think if I remember it correctly, Thuamul Rampur is the most backward block of the state. And in this block, probably there are no degree colleges, and there are also other blocks where in panchayats there are no schools, colleges. So we have to provide these things. And because government should not think about the profit or the cost, and it should provide these basic things. And free and quality education for all. I think we have not yet provided this. And free and quality healthcare for all is a fundamental. These are now we have made the elementary education as free and compulsory education for all. But then we see that the dropout rates are quite high among tribals. So that means the education that we are providing also has some limitations, and we need to think on it, that why we are not able to retain all the children. Okay? And for that, I have written multiple times in newspapers that we need to probably rethink the model of the tribal education, and particularly when we try to put them in the residential schools. I think we should not take them to far off places. At present, the tribal children are taken away from their district, and put them. We are putting them in different other districts. No, my proposal is that every panchayat, headquarter, or at least in every panchayat, wherever there are no tribals, no number of tribals are more, or you can find out the scheduled tribal areas, scheduled areas, or scheduled panchayats, where percentage of the tribal people is more than 50%, or you can bring it to less than that also, 25% above tribals. At panchayat level, there should be a very big residential school, and the tribal children from that panchayat should be enrolled there, and they should have also the residential facility. Okay? And in the weekend, they should also be allowed to go to their home so that they remain culturally rooted. So why I'm saying this, because at present, I have seen some tribal schools in or some schools in Bhubaneswar, and the students are from sometimes Mayurbhanj, from Koraput, very far off places. So in such a case, what happens? The parents of these children don't meet them for a year. So the children only go once in a year to their home. So they are completely neglected, and we also hear sometimes some kind of lapses in the girls' schools and in boys' schools also. So those lapses can be minimized if the children live closer to their parents. Okay, there will be a lot of accountability on the teachers, and then the cultural uprooting accusation will also stop, so that people remain the culture. In fact, I know once I had been to Jaipur, sorry, uh, to Raigada, and then one mother telling us that, sir, when my child comes from Bhubaneswar to home, he doesn't eat the typical food that we eat in our home. So he demands the food that he eats in Bhubaneswar. So no, I'm not saying that people should not there should be mobility, definitely, but then again the cultural things, not that all things are bad. Okay? So if now a person is developing inferior complexity and is trying to reject his own culture, then that is probably not the right education that we're offering. So there should be good education, but then there should also be equal respect for each language and culture. So the diversity should be respected, whether it is food, dress, or cloth, or religion, or culture, celebration. All diversity should be respected. So that having one big residential school at every panchayat level. Okay, I'm not saying that this will be exclusively for the tribal children. No, it will be open to all. Okay, and no, the people can be transported, provide them good transportation facility, because having small schools in every hamlet is quite expensive, so you can't manage this. So have very big school, have good teachers and good infrastructure, and then provide them. So the tribal people are definitely in need of the accommodation, because they cannot commute every day, and they don't have also good food and accommodation facilities at their home, so they all can stay. Other people will have the day boarding facility, because then midday meal is provided in all schools. So that's a good thing, where that ensures nutrition and minimum food security to all. That also brings equality. If all people eat together, that sense of equality also develops. So I think we need to change the model of education in the state. And then coming to the healthcare system, and okay, we have progressed quite a lot in terms of healthcare delivery, because if you see the maternal mortality and infant mortality rates in Odisha, a lot of improvements have happened, particularly after the launch of the National Health Mission. We see that the institutional delivery has improved remarkably. People are now going to the hospitals to give birth to their children, but it is not yet sufficient. You see that sometimes the ambulance is not reaching the hamlets, tribal hamlets. Sometimes people carry the pregnant woman for 5 to 6 kilometers to reach to the nearest ambulance. So that means, first of all, we have not provided good roads that reflects, and then on the top of that, our healthcare institutions at block level, okay, or we can say the primary health care system is still remaining quite weak. So we need to change this and improve it significantly. Okay, and to give an example, I have narrated this at many places that once my own cousin brother, when he was going to become a father, his wife was living in Baripada, and doctor suggested that you should take her to Bhubaneswar. Okay, and they could easily hire an ambulance and then transport her to Bhubaneswar, and so everything happened very smoothly. But that day, I was quite disturbed, okay, and disturbed for the simple reason that I was thinking that if this thing had happened to a poor person, in Marvan's district, or say somebody in living in Koraput or Raigada or Malkangiri district, and if the district headquarter will not have adequate healthcare services, emergency child care services, say NICU or whatever you call, then that means the poor people do not have the right to give birth to a child. It implies that. So in a democratic nation or in a democratic state and in a welfare state, if the poor person doesn't have the right to give birth to a child, then what kind of democracy and what kind of welfare nation we're talking about? So from that day, I have been arguing at many places that we should have a very good healthcare facility at every block level, 314 blocks, and in each block we should have a very good facility for the healthcare, for at least the primary health, and for mother for self delivery of the children. So that there will be no division between rich and poor, and only the rich people can give birth to the child safely, and the poor people will not have the right to give birth to the child. It is not accepted at all. Okay, so we should have we have to actually develop. In fact, since the budget is coming up, in fact, I have also raised this point at many places, that government should, if required, government of India should come forward, state government should put money, and at every block level, we should have all the facilities required for delivering a safe child. Okay, so that should be assured, and that will also reduce the burden on the tertiary healthcare. Now, what is happening? For a simple primary healthcare, people are coming to Bhubaneswar. Okay, and that means that puts extra pressure on the tertiary healthcare system. So if we can strengthen the primary healthcare system at block level, then it will be evenly distributed. So people can access the tertiary healthcare easily. Whoever comes, wherever there is a specialized treatment required, they can come to Bhubaneswar. And for that also, we have no ambulance services, and that should be even strengthened much more. Okay, we should have more ambulances. So yeah, so free and quality education for all, and free and quality healthcare for all. In fact, we can have special lectures on health and education, like how to strengthen the education system, how to strengthen the healthcare system. But we will not get much into that. But yeah, at least we should say that we should work on this. If we have to transform Odisha into a middle income state, and then where it is called as a welfare state, then these are the basic things that state should provide. And then employment. Odisha has the bad record of sending people outside the state, whether the people working as bonded labor in the Andhra Pradesh brick kilns, or going to Surat and or elsewhere, or nowadays many people are going to Gulf also, and they get exploited there also. So we have the record of sending people outside. Now it is high time Odisha thinks how to create employment opportunities at village level or at panchayat level. And again, on that, I had written an article in Dharitri long ago that we can have one industry at panchayat level, following the Chinese model of village level enterprise, village enterprises, Chinese village enterprises. So there are many things that can be produced at village level, and we are stuck at MGNRG's Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. That only generates unskilled employment, but nowadays nobody is interested to work as honest unskilled worker. Now every person has some skill. So now that we have given so much of education, we have created so much of skill. Now we can have small enterprises at each panchayat on a public-private partnership board, and where some capital is mobilized from some shareholders, say 20-30 shareholders, and they generate 50% of the money, and another 50% is say contributed by the state, and then we can create clusters actually in different panchayats depending on the natural resources availability, skill availability. You can have your production in a cluster, and you produce that and have a marketing chain also. Just like Amazon, we can have our own marketing chains, or sometimes we can integrate this also, production clusters to the online marketing chains. So this will create skilled and semi-skilled enterprise. In fact, for producing toys, we don't need really big engineers. We semi-skilled people can produce toys, and we don't have to import toys from China. We don't have to import chemicals from China if village enterprises can produce it. Because if China is producing all these things in their village enterprise, why can't we produce these things in village enterprises? So we need to think a little bigger, instead of thinking too much on the unskilled rural employment guarantee scheme. We should think how to provide skilled and semi-skilled enterprises employment at panchayat level. And so this will create a completely new culture, entrepreneurship culture. So, then only Odisha can become a better state. Okay, and that will also help the distribution of the income, and it will help also alleviating poverty. So I think with this I'll stop, and we can take some questions. I have already taken a lot of time. So with this I stop, and yeah, we all need to think on the vision plan of Odisha. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your very wonderful and briefing and enlightening lecture. And it's really very plundering with so many ideas related to future perspective when we are going to celebrating 100 years of our state in 2036. I think you little bit trouble during the lecture. I think you are not well. So then I would probably invite Dr. Shravan back to go for a quick comment, please. Then I will come back to your question and answer session. Yeah, Dr. Shravan back.
Very good
Thank
evening,
you.
very good evening, sir, and thank you so much, Director Card. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, please.
Well, great. I must take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Das, particularly for giving such a wonderful lecture, despite having cold fever or some kind of unusual thing. So thank you so much, Doctor, for giving us such a lovely lecture and setting the tone for next level of discussion. And of course, just to make sure that this particular event of organizing this series of lecture is really now has reached to that an extent where we are having people like you, and the discourse that you are that you have given will definitely help us a lot in setting the tone for our agenda in the days to come. Now, coming back to the particular presentation that you have shared, I have little bit of disagreement with certain points, and of course, more or less, I have certain agreements. So just to start, you have rightly said that it is high time that when we are entering to the 21st century and when we will be, celebrating the 2036, it is right time that we should set our vision. So taking that as the starting point, I must agree, and it is right time, because as we said that when we are planning, we must plan at least for a decade, more than a decade. Then in that context, setting the tone for 2036 right from the day is a welcome step, and we must agree to that. Now, if this is the agenda, then there are two things. First of all, what will happen to the existing plan? Are we thinking apart from the existing plan and policies? Or when we are talking about the 2036, in what light, how are we relating that with the existing plan and program? That is the most critical point, I think, particularly because altogether you cannot plan in isolation unless and until there is no integration with the existing plan. Otherwise, it will be again a questionable sort of thing, and we might not get the desired outcome. So that we have to take a note, number one. Number two, you have very rightly said that development can only happen when we take the various indicators, the various core indicators into account. It is not only economic, or it is not only political science or politics that contributes. The very important, aspect like health, education, livelihood, these are the core indicators that we need to think. But unfortunately, I echo with you that the government somehow is not giving that much of attention, or if at all it is giving attention, the plan is somewhere not realistic. As a matter of fact, we all could see that at what level development is happening, and at what sort of development is taking place. Now you have also said that somewhere there is less representation of uh, a particular class of people. Let's say for OBC you have said, and you have also said the inter-regional disparity kind of thing that is not contributing to the development process, particularly when we talk about the Odisha context. Sir, what I feel personally here is that it is again a political gimmick, right? When we talk about development, let us not talk it in isolation. As I said, let us not talk in bits and pieces. Let us not distribute, let us not divide the state as a whole. Somewhere I feel a sense of that political vested approach is associated with this, for which this development is not taking place to that an extent as it should have been. Because you see, ultimately it is all about the ball game of power. Somewhere you have to make the the fuel always burning so that you can cook. It is like that. So I feel that little bit of political willpower is not there, for which this development, for which we all are committed, for which we all are discussing here, is not getting the shape as it should have been. Number one. Number two, as you rightly said, that the Niti Aayog report you have said, yes sir, I was also going through that, and in fact I do closely watch the Niti Aayog's report, and particularly the SECI report, School Quality Education Index. There also we do find such kind of anomalies and disparities, and of course when the government is giving its own data, we have to rely on that, and taking that as a reference point. If this reality is there, although it is there, but just to substantiate that by taking own government's record, then it is really horrible. The second part, I would say, you have talked about certain solution, where you have talked about the residence setup of residential school, and you have given a sort of model. Here there's a problem, sir. The problem is that, as you rightly said, that you see, at some point of time it is seen that when we detach those people at an early stage in the name of their development, so there is always a risk factor involved when they feel some kind of they do exhibit a pathetic attitude to their own culture. As a matter of fact, what happens, they are neither accepted by their own culture, by their own society, nor they are so much in a position where they can join the mainstream people or the so-called elite people or the developed people. So again, they do face some kind of maladjustment problem, and ultimately they choose a different path, which is seen as a burden or as a problem to the society. So how to deal with that? Because there are a number of residential setup where people are taking where those authorities or those so-called managers or the people associated, they took the people from a very early age. So what happens, as I said, that it sends a sort of discontentment toward their own culture or their own native land. So how to mitigate this challenge is always a question thing. Yes, when we talk about the model school setup, you later on you have corrected that we must go for setting up such kind of setup in their own vicinity rather than giving them an exposure to the so-called developed society. Let us um, discuss, or let us improvise our delivery system so that the basic fundamental question of access could be resolved. This is what my point. And coming back to the quality concern, uh, yes, sir, that I do echo with you that quality to a large extent is nowadays compromised, because the very notion of the quality has been changing, or people are changing the definition of quality, based on their own comfort zone, right? So some sort of non-negotiable things has to be planned, has to be there in the policy, because when we talk about policy, of course, there are several people who are associated with that, but unfortunately, the true beneficiaries are not involved in the policy planning process. So somewhere, when we take those stakeholders into account in this entire process of policy framing, probably I would say the some sort of this bottlenecks could be addressed. And for this, you have to follow the very agreed framework of our constitution, where we talk about the decentralization. But what happens, there is a disparity in policy and practice. We are talking about the decentralization program, and we are talking about realistic policy, but what is happening now? You see, let me give you a very crude example. Now very soon we will be having our budget session, right? Let's say for Odisha. So where the government will seek suggestion, will seek comment and feedback from various stakeholders down the line. Now, how many people from southern parts are really taking part in this discourse? How many people from western region, to whom we are referring in our discussion, are really taking this part? At one point we said that we people have struggled a lot in this digital divide, or so-called internet and everything. So it is again a problem that, are we really talking about decentralization? Are we talking about participation of people? So this is what my point is. Of course, as someone has rightly said, that India is very good in policy. Whatever may be the policy, India is always a torch bearer to the rest of the people in the world. But when it comes to practice, it is again a question mark, a big question mark, a big hollow. So this gap has to be really addressed in true spirit, in true sense. And I must say that unless and until all the torchbearer, all the people concerned are not taking it as a onus, as an accountability, then probably I can think that the whole purpose is defeated. Last but not the least, somewhere the monitoring mechanism and the feedback mechanism has to be ensured, because unless and until this monitoring and feedback in true sense is not done, so I don't think that the purpose of policy framing or translating program could be ensured or could be achieved. So this will be my take. And I must say thank you so much for taking all your pain to give such a very wonderful lecture with crude statistics. It was really wonderful to listen you. Thank you so much from my side. Over to Director Card.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sabanbag. We have Professor Lakshmikant Mishra, the senior most professor of Ravenshaw University. Sir has a question. Sir, please you ask direct to Dr. Amarendra Dasji. Yes, please.
Yeah. Hello. So am I audible?
Sure, sir, please.
Yeah. Point is your topic is a very good one. So your presentation was excellent, and I had some reservations, and in the very beginning, you stated that you are not a politician or a man associated with politics, or you have nothing to say anything political. Again, like the government and like different agencies, you have taken this date 2036, which is a political date. You could have taken any other date. And why have you taken? And on one side, you are telling that you are not, you do not know anything about politics and political science or whatever it is. Then coming over to the data you provided, this data, of course, most of the data are collected by the national agencies, government agencies, and how can we truly depend on those, rely on those data? Number three is you see about political mobilization. You go back to 1942, and we have seen the dimensions of violence which the Quit India movement has witnessed in Odisha. It is much higher. In Odisha in comparison to the other states of India, other provinces, I would say, other provinces of India. And we find violences, at around 29 people were killed. We find violences are in two extreme pockets, one in Bhubaneswar, Bhadrak regions, the other in Koraput. And one study undertaken, that gave a completely different picture. And we find violences occurring in those places where the exchange, the import-export balance is in favor of the peasants. And in 1942, the export-import balance was in favor of the peasants in Bhubaneswar, Bhadrak region as well as in Koraput, not elsewhere in Odisha. So, and Gandhi tremendously influenced, mobilized the people. One cannot just dismiss the fact that this political mobilization is absent, and it is difficult to. And Naxalites or Maoists, they have eyed upon those pockets for carrying on their so the activities. So political mobilization. Then another thing is about free quality education. As far as free education is concerned, we have the right to, we have policies for universalization of education through the Right to Education Act 2009. And that would to provide education and to the pupils, between the 6 to 14 years of age. And in this context, I would just ask one question. Nobody is raising a problem. You know that if you go to in that right to education, it has been specifically mentioned that the age appropriate class, the pupil is to be admitted into age appropriate class. On the other side, we find the schools, whether in urban areas, in urban areas or in rural areas, they are demanding you produce the birth certificate, or if you want to take the take admission at class 7, then produce the CLC from the previous school or previous class. So SLC, a school. So what is the necessity when there is the provision that to what extent we are sincere, and government agencies sincere in implementing the Right to Education Act. And these things are there. And I'm not coming over to the quality, about the pre-education. And you know, this problem of pre-education, it is not available to all. It is available to all in principles, but the people, the parents, they are not truly sincere, although specifications are there. So these are some of the observations and my the queries from you. That's it. If you would like to throw some light on my observations and my problems, then you may respond to it or not.
Okay, no, thank you for your comments, and no, I agree, no, largely with the concern that you have raised. But no, coming to see when we speak something, it's not that that is the ultimate truth, or that is the thing that will be done. But yeah, coming to the political thing, that why 2036, I think 2036 is an important date for us. Okay, and if you have to have a plan, and then we have to plan and we have to fix a date, and I don't think that 2036 is a political date at all. Okay, and if 2036 is political, then our life is full of politics, and I don't think that we can ignore actually. In fact, our birth is political, because the selection of our father and mother is a political thing. Okay? So that way, no, I don't consider that 2036 is that political at all. Actually. And coming to, in fact, the previous speaker was also telling that how do we really have a plan for this, and it may disturb the existing plan. And my answer is that we don't have a plan at all. Actually. See, if you see that, why I'm saying that for Odisha we don't have a plan at all. No, because I'm saying this because the state planning board has never met in last decades. Actually, not only for 1 year or 2 year or 3 years. In last decades, actually, the planning board has never met. that simply implies that we don't have a long-term plan. We have an annual plan that is reflected in the budget. And that is how a state is never made. Okay? For making a state, you need to have a long-term plan, you need to have a medium-term plan, and you need to have a short-term plan. Budget provides a short-term plan, that is annual plan. What is our long-term plan? We don't have actually. So we need to have a plan, and now an occasion is coming for us, that is 2036. We are going to complete 100 years, and we need to introspect. Have we done enough in the past so that we can call as a welfare state, a democratic state? Okay, and then coming to the political movements, if you compare Odisha's political movement vis-a-vis the southern political movement, be it Dravidian movement, if we compare our movement, with the southern Dravidian movements, we are nowhere comparable. Where is social movement in Odisha? Is there any caste movement? Is there any political movement that has really mobilized the entire population of the state? The answer is definitely no. Our movements are quite regional and very, very local, okay, and on a specific issue. So, see, for example, my concern remains that our demand for the public goods, we have never seen a movement that is demanding public goods. Have you ever seen that people of the state demanding teachers' appointment in the schools? Have you ever seen that appointment of doctors in the hospitals? Have you ever seen demanding roads to their own villages? I have never seen such a movement in the state. We have protested against a few things, but that is not sufficient. That's why I don't call this as really a big social and political movement in the state. Okay, so that's why and when I was saying this, I was comparing this with the southern states, and that's why southern states are much more advanced. Actually, if you see the welfare of the workers in southern states, it is because of the strong union and social movement that has brought them to this level, okay, of the democratic institutions and democratization of the politics and democratization of entire process. So yeah, so I don't see that we have a plan also. I think but anyway, having said this, I don't say that whatever I have said is completely correct and that needs to be accepted by all. So that if I say that, then the whole democratic argument would fail. No, we need to have a democratic space where we need to discuss together that what should be our model of growth. That all sections of the society need to sit together and think and determine. But that also doesn't happen. That's why and I am arguing for that. And because I am still optimist, I am not that pessimist that nothing happens in the state. Because if you see the panchayat election or even the last legislative assembly election, the participation of more people in the political process is an indication. In fact, although people may misinterpret me, but I would say the increasing violences in the election is reflecting that people are now becoming assertive to exercise their democratic power. I don't encourage violence at all, actually. So I'm not propagating that there should be violence, but this violence is happening because people don't accept the status quo. Okay? Somebody has been I'm not referring to any political party per se, but I'm saying that if people are protesting in any form, that means they're not accepting things. So, and that's a good thing. So, and this will lead to an equilibrium where people will also demand things, but in a peaceful manner, without going for violence, because violence brings more violence. So people will realize this in second chance, third chance, fourth chance, and ultimately they'll settle with a peaceful, peaceful, democratic, protest. Okay, so at least that should happen sometimes. So I'm still optimist. I'm not saying that I'm pessimist, because see, whatever changes have happened, we have grown, we have achieved certain things. So that way, even say if you look at education, and in fact, I see also small changes happening in different parts of the state. So I'm not a pessimist at all. I'm quite optimistic, and I also believe that in future, Odisha will be a much better state. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. We are running short of time. Sorry in advance, but lot of question for you, sir. Maximum number of students and our faculty members are asking. And,
in fact, no. Since already time is there, and in fact, in those questions there are a lot of answers also.
okay, definitely,
Yeah, lot
sir.
of there are
Definitely.
already.
Yes,
I
yes.
don't see. For example, the person who is saying that no, whether we should destroy the environment for no. In fact, I am a big propagator of environmental conservation. Okay, so I don't.
Okay, sir. I will read out. I will read out. I will read out for questions for you, sir. Sir, Shubham Das is asking, I have some doubt whether the poverty in Odisha is the outcome of policy failure of the state or the bureaucratized development model which is being adopted in Odisha, or is it due to the intellectual poverty in this post-truth arena? How do you look at the prevalence of paradox of poverty so far as our province is concerned? What is your opinion?
So definitely, in fact, I told you that we have achieved economic growth, but the distribution has failed. That means that implies that policies have failed. Okay, and that again doesn't imply that we have not done anything. We have done certain things, but then we have succeeded in doing something, and we have failed in certain things. And that's why we need to introspect. That's why when I was saying that we are preparing for 2036, we need to introspect that what did we do with all good intention or bad intention? Why did you fail? Now, if you have to strengthen this, how do we do it? Okay, and intellectual poverty, if you say, yeah, no, I agree with this, that the debates and discussions in the state are not happening at all. That's why we don't put, in fact, the pressure group in the state is very, very weak, or in fact, it doesn't exist, I would say. Okay, so the pressure group should be strengthened, and who will do that? No, it's basically the academicians who can read and think. So they should at least create some opinion in the society, which doesn't happen.
Okay, thank you, sir. Through the per capita income is being used or reduced measures to evaluate the standard of living for a population. It has more limitations so far as inflation, income disparity, poverty, wealth, or saving is concerned. My question is how to evaluate the perils of extractivism, capitalism that have been doing the historic prejudice for as lives and livelihood of marginalized sections of our society.
Yeah.
For economic inequality and deep-rooted. What is your?
So I think I have covered this point during my talk. So I think I don't have to really.
Okay, sir. No issue.
Per capita income is definitely not the right indicator. That's why I was telling that you get different picture when you look at the per capita income, but when you look at the poverty and monthly per capita consumption expenditure, you get completely different pictures. So,
thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And one more question from again Shubham Das. He is asking Vision 2036 with industrialization, without caring about the environmental concern that the whole planetary life is facing today in this Anthropocenic epoch due to human activity. Can the mining-based industrialization ensure right to breathe in clean air, right to consume clean, safe water, right to free from global warming in 2036?
No, definitely. See, the model of growth needs to change, and I don't agree also that no, we have to have no. In fact, for that reason, I have been thinking whether fast economic growth is required at all as well. The obsession for big growth numbers, that is probably not required. We should think a more redistributive path of growth, that reaches all sections of the society. So, small scale of production are less environmentally damaging, and rather it helps more income generation, and it distributes the income. So I would rather recommend such a growth path than going for fast, furious, and destructive growth.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Sir, this is my time. I would like to ask not less than 10 number questions because we are conducting such a very wonderful international conclave related to the Adivasi question and envisioning Odisha 2036. What kind of policy roadmap we have and visualize the future of 2036? You rightly mentioned through your presentation, we have only 14 years to go. Don't know what happened this pandemic and how the pandemic is continues for 5 years or 10 years. It's must happening a trajectory end by the end of this decade. Sir, it's rapid fire questions, not long and long, no long question and no long answer. because I know, sir, you are ill. What about air traveling in terms of no infrastructure yet? How do you look at the state's air infrastructure by 2036?
No, we need at least one more airport in South Odisha, particularly in Jaipur. I think that work is going on. I hope I would see a big airport coming up in Jaipur that would strengthen entire. Okay, first of all, it will provide good connectivity, and now that many educational institutes have come up, so that will ensure basically integration of different regions. And Jharsuguda Airport needs to be strengthened. And Bhubaneswar Airport, again, a bigger airport coming up and having more international flights from Bhubaneswar. I would see that in at least future by 2036.
Sir, by using the tag of international airport is sufficient, or it needs actual internationalizing?
No, actual international. That's what I mean. That so you need a bigger airport so that big aircrafts can come and more flights directly, to different destinations. At least, to the destination where our people go.
Okay, thank you. Sir, how do you feel in 2036, the particular bottom and cutting edges like Malkangiri and Nabarangpur people will see train line or railway tracks?
Railway line, I am not very sure, because if you look at the past decades, it has been even slower than the Tatas. Okay, so I can't really see anything, but then railway lines, in fact, there have been studies. When I was doing my MPhil, I was given an assignment, the railway lines and growth, okay, and connecting to British period, how these destinations are chosen and how that impacted the industrial clusters and so on. So they are actually definitely the path to the prosperity. But given the past trend, I don't see much hope. Okay, at least I would hope that whatever projects are going on, that is completed. But even if trends are going slow, I would say that having good roads, okay, and we don't have good roads to all tribal villages. See, we have 5,000 hamlets, or even more than that, where there are small tribal hamlets, and there are no roads. Just like Nagada, we have so many villages like Nagada. First of all, we should ensure good road connectivity, and no excuse of showing forest. I would not go by the environmental concern, that when you are trying to provide a road to the tribal village, you are saying that no, forest is no major concern. No, when it comes to providing roads, no forest, no river, nothing. Roads have to be provided, okay? And roads don't really do damage to the forest. So forests can be conserved even by providing roads. So so even if we are not coming up with long railway tracks, let us have very good roads to all villages.
Thank you, sir. Do you believe 30 districts have 30 medical colleges in 2036, or we need more 20 districts like 50 districts in Odisha?
Number of districts, I think still some bigger districts can be bifurcated, but medical colleges, I support your idea that one medical college in each district is essential. But more than that, the block headquarter, medical, the community health centers. I think at block level that is called a community cluster, health centers. So that needs to be strengthened so that people don't have to come to the district headquarter or to the state headquarter for simple healthcare needs. So we need to spend a lot of money. In fact, sometimes I've been thinking that instead of having a hundi or donation box in temple, have donation box in health centers, okay, and let people donate, get free healthcare, but people who are feeling like donating can donate. People can celebrate their birthday by donating some money in a health center. So we need to change our approach. Instead of donating to the temples, donate to the health centers and the education centers.
Thank you, sir. Sir, do you believe 30 districts have 30 universities with full strength?
Universities, I may not actually go for say having 30 universities. So I am saying this because by 2036, the number of universities that we have already opened, are quite large. So we need to strengthen the university that we have already opened. Once we fulfill, like we have enough infrastructure, we have sufficient manpower, then we can think of more universities. But by 2036, immediate target would be strengthen those universities. But yes, the colleges should be excellent, very good infrastructure with international standard infrastructure. I would say, like having computer and very good trained manpower. We don't have teachers. No, so even at degree, your district level colleges, we don't have sufficient teachers. So have very good teachers, enough teachers also have different disciplines, so that people have the choice. The national education policy talks about big colleges and more disciplines coming up. See, our education is not updating because we don't have manpower. Now see, artificial intelligence is the need of the hour. Now, can our teachers teach at undergraduate level this course? No, they cannot teach. So can they teach say specific needs, like say now disaster management needs to be taught at district level? Are we doing this? Do we have manpower? We don't have. So we need to strengthen the existing colleges with more manpower, so that we can offer more variety of courses that are required for the time.
Sir, would you like to see 100 model degree colleges in
Yes,
rural
I would
pockets
go
of
by
Odisha?
that 100 degree model colleges. I would completely support, and more in the south of southern part of Odisha and western part of Odisha. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, what about the road connectivity in terms of block headquarters to district headquarters related to 4 connectivity lines? Do you
Yes.
agree with this, sir?
Yes, I have already told that the road to prosperity is the road. Okay, so we should have very good roads, 4-lane roads, and so that everyone can reach every district headquarters. See, for example, when you are going to Sundargarh or even say Raigada, you need 7-8 hours. We need to reduce the time, okay? So that if you have very good roads, at least if suppose it is required, then the chief secretary should be able to reach that part in a few hours. But we don't have that roads. So I think we need to strengthen the roads.
Sir, would you like to see Mahatma villages in Mahatma villages in terms of smart villages in every panchayat?
Panchayats needs to completely transform. See, that way we have not yet implemented the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments completely. Okay, and if we have to convert each panchayat into a self government, then you have to transfer more functionaries and more funds. And having one panchayat executive officer for 3 panchayats is not going to help. Okay? So in real sense, we need to transfer more power. In fact, when I was telling about having one enterprise in every panchayat, I have also bigger plans for panchayats. Like panchayats can be the data centers. If you have to have good plans, then you need more disaggregated numbers, and the authenticated numbers can only come from the panchayat level. And so we have to really strengthen the panchayats in a big way, and that way you can learn quite a lot from Kerala. Kerala has transferred a lot of powers to the panchayats.
Thank you.
We need to do that.
Thank you. Sir, do you agree this point Odisha is need much more cities? Oh, it's still 75 years independence. We don't have any single city expansion even today.
See, I don't know actually. See, for example, if you think about even Kerala, in Kerala there is no difference between a city and a village. Okay, it is a continuum. So I believe in that. You provide the urban amenities in the rural areas. Okay? Because having bigger cities is more damaging. See, for example, now Bhubaneswar is growing, Cuttack is growing. What is the outcome? You have destroyed the Chandga Wildlife Division. Okay? And that's how now Chandga, the elephants are coming to the collectorate office to give grievances. Collector doesn't meet him. Okay? Meet the elephants. So no, I don't really encourage having. See what has happened in Delhi, what has happened to Mumbai, okay, what has happened to Bangalore. So bigger cities are not the solution. Rather, provide urban amenities in the rural area. Have good roads, good internet connection, and good healthcare facilities, so that people can live everywhere, a decent life.
Thank you, sir. Sir, your presentation talked about the every panchayat have a industry, right, sir?
Yes.
You mentioned. Sir, can we promote cottage industry by 2036? What Gandhi said always.
Yes, that can be done. In fact, in my article in Dharitri, I had I had described in details, like that will in fact have positive impact on our education system. The present education system is going completely theoretical. It doesn't give emphasis on the skill development. But if we have more industries at panchayat level, these educational institutes should also help these cottage industries, okay, to have more skills and continuous capacity building, so, continuous hand holding should be done by these educational institutes. Be it polytechnic institutes, be it commerce management institutes or colleges, they should provide all these inputs so that our education also becomes skill oriented, not completely bookish.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, do you agree with this point? Women SSG groups, self-help groups, the silent voters.
In fact, I'm looking forward to this, Mission Shakti. I think if they can follow the model of like Kudumbasri in Kerala, the Mission Shakti, can really bring a lot of changes. But like they're already doing a lot of things like getting electricity bills, and I think some other things are also they are doing. They can play really bigger roles. Why I'm saying this? Now see, the Grama Sabhas are failing, okay, in the villages. So now you need certain agencies in the villages and in small towns who will take responsibility of the public goods that we are creating. Now, suppose we are creating a drinking water system. You need to collect some user fee. Now, who will do that? Panchayats are not doing it. And village committees have failed because of politics. Now, some agency needs to own the responsibility. So I think these self-help groups, the Mission Shakti, can be empowered and to do all these things. If collecting, now suppose we want to provide like water. Now every village, every household will be provided pipe water. Now every household needs to contribute 40 rupees per month, so that this becomes sustainable. Similarly, you want to provide, say, street lights. Now for street light also collect some user fee, 10 rupees or 20 rupees or 50 rupees per month from every household. So Mission Shakti people can be involved because they don't migrate mostly. Because women live in the village and male migrate more. Of course, it may sound quite sexist comment. I don't think so actually, because women live and now they are employed in their own villages. So it's a win-win approach, okay, and it will be sustainable also. So I can see bigger roles for Mission Shakti, and that's a good thing. And they can do a lot of things, particularly managing the public goods locally can be assigned to the Mission Shakti.
Thank you, sir. My idea is slightly different from yours. Would you agree to start male self-help groups rather this Biju Yuva Vahini, what the present regime is doing?
Biju Yuva Vahini was a political Vahini, okay, and that has never served anything particularly. If you think in terms of creating some public good locally, okay. So rather, I would say that I don't see actually the scope for a self-help group for the male. Rather, I would say having these enterprises, okay, that panchayat level enterprises, and that would be I told that it's a PPP model, that 50% share is coming from the public, and so they are working as a group, and that's a registered production unit, and that can expand. So more and more people remain employed here, and much more employment is generated, and if that can expand, more people can be observed, and that's what I think.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, you used the optimistic word more than 7 times in your presentation, right?
Okay.
How do you optimistic about a corruption-free state by 2036?
Okay, corruption is quite complicated phenomena. In fact, my way of looking at corruption is that if you can provide quality and free health and education for all, you can stop corruption in the society. Because people do corruption to buy the essentials of life. People know when they don't have income, but everyone has some aspiration. Okay, and when you are aspiring to provide, say, quality education, quality health care, you do anything. Okay, and but if you get all these things for free, in fact, I would go to the extreme of saying that private sector participation in health and education should be completely banned. Okay? Education and health should be completely nationalized. And if every child, be it rich or poor, studies in the same school and gets treatment in the same hospital, okay, society will be much better, and there will be no corruption. So my way of thinking about corruption is this.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, do you feel
Good
beyond 2036 we are promoting and we are engaging much teachers with less salary, like 310 rupees per day?
Oh, I have said this in many occasions that no, it's quite unfortunate that the state exploits its own people in a welfare state, because the state announces the minimum wage, but then when it comes to the payment to the teachers, it doesn't pay even the minimum wage to the teachers. So when the state becomes to the exploiting mechanism, that is not acceptable in a welfare nation. So that needs to change. Every teacher needs to be paid the minimum salary that they deserve, and so that it can attract actually good talents. In fact, I can say that if you reduce the salary of the people who get more, particularly at the university level or in the bureaucracy, that is perfectly fine. But giving subsistence wage or even less than subsistence to the teachers is not acceptable.
Thank you so much, sir. What is your ideas about
Vikram,
our research scholars' future, sir? Do you believe this copy-paste methodology varnished and these people are doing serious research in terms of empirical
interrupt
and very
Dr.
important
Dinar.
research, sir?
Professor Srinivasulu, you want to say something to you?
Sure, definitely. Please.
Yeah, Dr. Jana, thank you. Young man, very nice presentation. In fact, the two thoughts that you mentioned, that health and education should be completely taken over by the government and no private parties should be allowed to have any stake in health and education. That means everyone will go to same education institutions irrespective of their caste, creed, status level, all that. That's a wonderful thought. In fact, myself and Director of CARD, Bikram Jana, had a number of discussions on this. In fact, a few Western nations follow this, and I believe the biggest sectors that any nation can have is health and education. So therefore, your thought is well received, and I second your thought on taking health and education completely under the government fold, and letting everybody to go to government school only and take treatment in government hospitals. That's a wonderful thought, number one. And number two, this villages and cities. I personally believe that in India there is a big psychological block in the minds of the people, that only poor people, uncivilized people, those who cannot live elsewhere, they settle down in villages, and people who are having education, skill and all, they come to cities and all. This psychological block we should avoid, and villages are actually providing food to one and all, right, through agriculture and all. So therefore this kind of mindset that is mostly prevalent only in India, that village people are not up to the mark, and village people they want to come to city and settle down because city will provide you a lot of amenities and all. That is because of concentration. The 75, more or less 75 years of independence has not ensured that villages are also to be equally sophisticated in terms of health, education, and different types of amenities and facilities. So India has failed in bridging the gap between villages and the cities, ignoring the fact that every citizen, irrespective of where you live, village or city, have equal right to access to every kind of facility or amenity. And especially those people whom we call as Annadata, farmers, who actually live in villages, right? They should be respected. And people like us, you, me, Dr. Jana, Mr. Rudra Pratap, everybody, all educated people should realize this. And we should try to ensure to bridge the gap between villages and cities. Then only the complete Atmanirbhar Bharat, or the kind of country that people like Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Patel, Netaji, and Ambedkar visualized. We can have that only when we remove that psychological block, that if I am from village, you will look down on me, saying that, oh, this is a downtrodden, he's a rusty, uncivil person. And if I am from city, you will have a different kind of look out for me. This kind of block we should avoid. That's what I personally believe. Thank you, Dr. Jana.
Thank you so much, sir, for your very brief insight. Sir, any comment from your side, sir? Dr. Amarendra Das.
No, I fully agree with him, actually. In fact, that's why I told that I believe that we should provide all basic amenities to all villages, so that quality of life is equal, and we don't divide between rural and urban area. I gave the example of Kerala. You don't see a distinction between rural and urban area. So we should have the same thing, that when it comes to the facilities, there should be equal facilities for all, and no distinction between rural and urban area.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Professor Srinivasalu, for joining with us. Sir, how do you look the cinema industry, Odia cinema industry, in 2036?
Yeah, they should stop doing copy paste, and should have more creative scriptures, like scripts like we had in the past. See why when Mihir Das died, why we all we are mourning for him, because they have touched our heart, right, and soul. So we need to have such movies which reflect our own identity. Okay? Why Tamil industry stories? Because they reflect their own culture. Okay? And because movies are all cultural things. So if you don't reflect your own culture, people will not like it. So if Odia movie industry can reflect our own culture, I think people will again go back. Of course, I think probably we'll have to have, instead of having physical theaters, people will go online. Like now we are watching things on Amazon, Netflix, and YouTube. Odia movie industries should also think in that direction, and going online and reaching out to the audience to different parts of the world, but have more say good original scripts.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, this is the last question for you today's night. Do you believe and do you agree this tribal killed stopped by this regime? When you rightly mentioned about social movements, particular happened in tribal areas to stop illegal.
Please repeat your question, sir.
Do you believe the Adivasi minority and the marginalized people killing should be stopped by the regime? In terms of this Kalinganagar movement and in Kasipur movement, you rightly mentioned about your presentation. And what about your ideas after mining? What kind of political economy we have, and how our next generation will survive? Through what kind of policy solutions they need to concretize the theory? And the Adivasi, how do you look at the Adivasi's problems first?
No,
when you talked about yes, sir. When you talked about a welfare nation or welfare state, its first and prime aim and objective is to protect their citizens first. But here is the tribal people are so neglected. What is your idea, sir? My
idea for industrialization is that you have to give ownership. If you are coming up with an industry in a locality, you have to give minimum 20% shareholding to the local people. Then you will not have any conflict. Okay, and people will easily accept this. And so that is my terms and condition for having industries. the present mode of providing compensation, peanuts compensation, and throwing them out from their own locality is not the way actually we can achieve sustainable industrialization. Since industries don't generate employment opportunities because we go for mechanization, we have to give 20% as shareholding to the local people.
Thank you so much, sir. Before I would like to invite Rudran and Das to go for a formal vote of thanks, I would like to congratulate you, sir, giving all the answers and brief some lights on particular your vision document for 2036. And we are looking forward for future engagement also, and simultaneously do some collaborative works and projects. Thank you so much, sir. I would like to invite Rudran for go for a vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jena. I would like to thank everyone to help me to putting this conference together. First of all, at the outset, my big thank to our speaker for today evening, Professor Amarendra Das. Thank you, sir, for your plethora of thoughts on different issues that you are sharing with our audience, like you're talking about democracy, economic crisis, and sustainable development goals, and India towards 2036. These are very important issues to be addressed in the 21st century. And in our state, definitely, we the people are very much insured with these ideas, and we have to promote these ideas among our youth or among our youth students. Also, we are talking about women empowerment, and Dr. Jena is asking so many questions, and these questions are definitely a eye-opening sessions providing to our audience. Definitely, thank you so much for your time and contributions to World Human Sciences and Management Conference. Thank you so much, sir. I have to acknowledge the institutional contribution here, in particular the Central University of Odisha, Indian Institute of Management Sambalpur, and Ravenshaw University for their institutional support. My special thanks to our patrons, Professor Sanjay Naik, Professor Sarath Kumar Palita, and Professor Mahadev Joyswal, and our convener, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda and Charudat Panigrahi, for their motivation and support. A special mention to Dr. Vikram Kesari Jena, Director, Center of ADIVASI Research and Development, and Dr. Shravan Bag, and Dr. Srinivas Loenes, Professor Lakshmikant Misra, and Professor Maheshwar Satpathy for present in this auspicious occasion of knowledge sharing. I'd like to thank all our team card to their support to organizing such kind of program. Professor Shravan Bag, Shubham Das, Dr. Nupur Patnaik, Professor Loknath Misra, Dr. Pritesh Sriranjan, Professor Kamal Prasad Mahanti, Dr. Samuel Lima, Chinmay Sahu, Professor Amulya Acharya, Professor V.C. Das, Professor Sudarshan Misra, and Dr. Meena Das for their presence and support. Thank you so much, and special thanks to our audience who are watching us in Facebook and YouTube, and a few people are watching in Zoom also. Thank you so much for your presence and making this conference a grand success. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much.